Devers did not go out a conquering hero. It just wounded his pride. It feels like this is a place where he can succeed in a different way. I've heard good things about him, but I just know happens over and over again with the Red Sox. They don't even have a player left from the Mookie Betts trade. That's absurd. God, like he'll do anything to try to win. All right, we're the Dodgers podcast. They continue to mostly win, right? They're pulling away a little bit, three and a half lead on the Giants, who kind of hit a little lull, but are 1-2 of 3 recently from the Red Sox. Dodgers feel like they figured it out, Dylan. I mean, they still have some pitching questions. I look at their pitching. I don't know who's starting today, but they can hit the way through it, get a little bit of pitching. They kind of feel stabilized right now.
Yeah, and mostly it's just a symptom of the schedule, right? They went through 26 straight games, all against teams that are either playoff bound or right on the cusp of it. And I think their goal then was to tread water. They did. They got out of it. They were still in first place, and now they're getting into like an easier part of the schedule. Ohtani's kind of come back. Basically, so he started pitching again. He's pitched in 2 games now, and really the thinking there was, that he was basically saying pitching in sim games before the real game was almost like pitching a doubleheader, right? So, and really this doesn't, I know they're saying like, oh, it sped up his timeline, but it really didn't, in the sense that, so far he's pitched 1 inning in both of the games he's pitched in, and I think the plan was, again, coming back right after the All-Star break. If he goes like this, he'll probably make 4 more appearances, say you add an inning each time. He'll be at 5 innings in that start coming back from the All-Star break. And that's probably where they wanted him to begin with. Right. So it's just a different way to get there. But it has caused, the way baseball season is just long. It takes forever. Even the players, at this time of the year, they start to drag a little bit, and just kind of watching the two-way act, in person, I think has kind of livened up the team a little bit, especially, right now when he's, he's pitched at home, and then he's going to DH right away, right? So he goes, he doesn't even go to the bench to get his stuff. He's strapping on his equipment on the field, never gets off the field, goes straight into the batter's box. So that's kind of livened up the team a little bit. Your guy, Blake Snell, does not seem close to be coming back. So that is a concern. And now, all of a sudden, it's a little bit more, you're leaning a little bit more on Tyler Glass now, right? Which I'm not really sure that's what you want. So,
but Snell's going to be there for the playoffs. I guarantee it. Like, that's, I keep hearing, guaranteed Blake Snell playoffs. Like, lock it in, Dylan. Game 2, put it in, write it down. I'm being very.
You sound like Scott Boras now.
I mean, I am. What I'm trying to mimic is people giving me back the Scott Boras spiel, right. And I would not do that. And we'll see. Again,
we'll see.
I've said my line on Snell and other pitchers who break down a lot. Sasaki gonna pitch this year?
That's a very good question. I think I talked to somebody over there who said, this could end up being kind of a red shirt type year for him. Yep. Dave Roberts has sounded very frustrated, right? In terms of, he said, well, I'm not really sure if he's actually right, because he stopped throwing for a while. I guess he started throwing again on flat ground, but kind of went during this like little break that he took. It was, well, I don't know if it's, that his shoulder's bothering him or if it's something more mental. Right. Mm-hmm. Which the implication is that it's something mental, and that kind of gets you to a point where you're starting to wonder, and this might be a good segue for Devers and the Giants, whatever, but, kind of this communication between team and player. Right. And I think, one thing is that Ohtani, Yamamoto are 2 guys that are kind of very sure of themselves. Right. However they perform. Kind of even from day one, right? When Ohtani showed up with the Angels, he was like, this is who I am. This is what I do. He seemed very sure of himself. And same thing with Yamamoto, right? And Sasaki seems to be much more of an introvert. You don't see him interacting too much with his teammates. I don't think he's a bad guy in that, like, I sense, you see him kind of the way he treats children, right? And it seems like he's been great with kids, which tells me that he's got a decent heart, whatever. But he and the team don't seem to be quite on the same page. And I think, if I'm the Dodgers, and I've talked about this before too, right? Just when you bring in foreign players, not just Japanese guys, but especially even Latin America, I do think you kind of need people in the front office that not just speak the language, but also understand the baseball cultures that they're coming from,
Mhm.
right? And because I do think a lot of times, they'll keep quiet when they're getting instruction, and then maybe they tell their agent, I didn't like this, and that kind of gets back to the team in a roundabout way. And now they're like, why is this guy being so evasive? Why can't he just tell us? And next thing you know, they're just bad feelings just kind of develop, right? And again, I'm not too familiar, right, with the details of what happened with Devers in Boston, but that was the feeling I got just kind of watching it from a distance too. It was like, okay, there's a breakdown in communication here that happened, right? And because some things that are kind of taken as just kind of very matter of fact in one culture can be seen, right, might seem like
Yep.
disrespectful in another. So
Yeah, and I think it happens even with players in the American culture. Like, it just depends on communication. I think that's the important. But again, which only gets more complicated when there's different languages and different cultures. No question. My sense on Devers was it's just a lot of pride, which is good. Yeah. Good players have pride about what they do. Got moved off of third base in a surprise. And they're in order to try to placate him, they said, well, then you're such a good hitter. That's all you need to do. Don't even think about fielding. You're just a great hitter. And that clicked in something like, well, then if that's all I am, and then there's an injury at first base, don't just say, oh, now we need you at first. Now, again, most people would say, okay, that's where I'm needed. And I think he's saying that to the Giants, but for the team that he broke in with and the team that he helped win a World Series with and a team that has run off all their good young players, like we've seen it now 3 in a row of that World Series winning team, but you would think the Red Sox have enough money to keep at least one of them or two of them. They kept Devers and then traded him, and we're celebrating getting rid of him. The typical, Red Sox leaking afterwards. That's fine. Listen, I don't want to make fun. I'm part of that sometimes with other players. I try to, if I'm hearing it, I try to write it before they go, just so like, listen, I was sort of on this, and then it all comes out. But it happens with it's legendary. What happens with
it is.
It just does. Yeah. Devers did not go out a conquering hero. Obviously, he could have just said, "Yeah, I'll try to work out first base." Even Bob Melvin, a little bit, just said, "Yeah, it's not that hard." Like, if you're a talented player, you should be able to play first base. Guys do it, but it just wounded his pride. It just Breslow, Craig, former player, but a pitcher, kind of a brainy pitcher. Not like a blue collar guy. I think Posey is much more of that, or Posey's like understanding of the pride of players. But also sometimes it's just a new place. Like you just feel different when you go to this isn't where he broke in. This isn't where he helped win a World Series. So he's on his best behavior. We'll see how long that lasts, but I think it'll be fine. Now, listen, he makes a couple errors at first base and feels like he's put out of position there. It might be different, but feels like it won't be. I just feel like he feels like this is a place where he can succeed in a different way. I don't know Breslow. I've heard good things about him, but I just know happens over and over again with the Red Sox specifically. Like it's renowned that they get good young players and then they burn them. And Mookie Betts, how could you not say, Mookie, whatever you want, we're signing you, whatever you want. They don't even have a player left from the Mookie Betts trade. That's absurd. 2 championships for the Dodgers later. And just a guy, like he'll do anything to try to win. Like this is the guy whatever you say about Devers, that you couldn't get it done with Mookie tells me about what you couldn't get done with Devers, even more than Devers, because Mookie's a guy, like that's the guy. Like that's like there's no negatives with this guy. Right. And yet they got into a adversarial situation with him. That tells me about them. Maybe it doesn't mean that Devers is going to be anything like Mookie. Who knows? It is kind of the Giants Mookie trade. I've kind of thought that from the beginning. They couldn't make the Betts trade because they didn't have enough. Well, Devers was less valuable, and they were able to jump in there because they had the money to pay him. Like that's their big free agent signing, and he's obviously their best hitter. Hasn't blazed up a storm in the first few games, but he's hit a home run. He's hit a double. Like he's just a threat in a way that they don't have. They get Chapman back. That's move Casey Schmidt from third to second. He's actually hitting. They've had like 3 or 4 black holes offensively. Now maybe they have 2, and maybe when Chapman's back they have 1. Jung-Hoo Lee's been terrible lately. People getting mad at me for pointing out he has been terrible, but I think he's talented. You don't pull him from the lineup. Maybe you kind of take him out of some at bats against left-handed starters, but he's really good defensively. He's a good guy. I'm not saying pull him out. Tyler Fitzgerald's already been sent to the minor second baseman. They got to do something there. They've already released Wade. They're getting better. Posey's shown he's active. Posey's shown that like he's going to be on top of this. He's going to push his team to compete, believe in them that they can compete, make moves that shows he believes that they can compete, and they got pitching that can hold up. We'll see if Verlander holds up. We'll see if Adames is starting to hit. He is starting to hit, by the way. They're not as good as the Dodgers, but you get him into some short series with that pitching. You got Logan Webb, Robbie Ray going 1-2. That's a team that is going to be very interested. Feels a little bit like the different, obviously no Steph Curry, no Jimmy Butler, but it feels a little bit like the Warriors. Like you get them in a playoff series, I don't think they're going to win 4 of them, but they might win 1 or 2 that you don't expect them with that pitching, where they can throw Logan Webb at you twice in a 5-game series. They can throw Robbie Ray, in game 2, and all of a sudden you're down 2-0, and who knows what's going on. So they're not the Dodgers. Like you said, maybe they're the Dodgers' chief competition in the NL West. They should be. That means they'll get in the playoffs. And, I like them against a lot of matchups. I mean, I sort of like them against the Dodgers. I don't think they got destroyed other than the one game which just got out of hand. They played the Dodgers tough. Logan Webb's going to be tough on them, and they know it. He's been tough on them before in the playoffs. So that's a good place for the Giants to be. This is a good spot for them, especially getting Devers.
Yeah, and look, and they got the Dodgers' attention for sure. And I'm not sure if you heard Kershaw talk in game on the ESPN broadcast the day the trade got made, but like the competitor he is, that it seemed to kind of excite him, which is weird, right? Like I would be kind of like, oh crap, my competition just did what? But he seemed kind of like pumped by the fact that there's kind of this again, because especially you look at where the Padres are right now with their ownership problems. They are not adding, right? They are in subtraction mode. They're just going to probably continually just kind of gradually get worse and worse. Whereas the Giants are probably on the other end of things, right? And now, they might be like one player away from being a real nightmare for the Dodgers. So
that is the question. Can Posey make another trade? Does he have to? Bryce Eldridge is their big young guy in the minors, big bat. He plays first though. Not a great first. He might be a DH. You got Devers. Maybe they just split that. Or I always wanted, do you trade him? Although Buster made it pretty clear. Like they've already told Devers, we've got this guy. He's going to be our first baseman or DH. Just be aware, unlike the Red Sox, who who definitely surprised him with the Chapman move, like trying to let him know there might be some adjustments coming into the future. Again, that's a Posey thing. I think he's good at it. I think he's communicating really well to everybody. And I happen to say that because he talks to me, but he talks to a lot of people. So I'm not ripping any of that. And I want to go back on my Jeannie Buzz thing. I'm not ripping her for that. I'm just saying we know it happened. That's all I'm saying.